Says to Guy, and he hits it! Bacon on the other end!
Unbelievable. Peraltes with the dribble drive. Guy with a big shot from the left side corner. And then this guy's done it all the second half, almost by himself. Guy shot a big one. Wayne Bacon, even bigger.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Nole Hoops Authority podcast. Today we are coming to you in the time before the Clemson Florida State basketball game, which will happen Tuesday at 7 p.m. It should be quite the challenge, so we wanted to hop on here and talk a little bit about it. Anthony, what are some of your first impressions of this game before we go into an in-depth preview?
Yeah, this is a game that I think before the season you and I discussed that could be kind of one of the toss-up games on the schedule, depending on how teams were playing to this point of the season. Obviously, it's early on. Clemson's 6-1 with some big wins to this point. They beat Maryland, who's had a couple big wins, and Purdue's had a couple big wins, with their L coming to Virginia Tech, who's also a ranked team and is showing some strength in the ACC thus far. This is a team that's athletic. This is a team that is almost a ham-style team in that they run the hockey-style lineups. They play 11 guys, but they don't necessarily have a ton of height. This may be an area where we could kind of take advantage, but it's also an area that Florida State has kind of struggled with to this point, with smaller forwards and centers that are more athletic and slipping through box outs and just looking too fast for our bigs. So presents some challenges, obviously, but this is a winnable game, and you just hope that Florida State, with the time off that they've had, comes out firing on all cylinders. They've had about a week off, and hopefully that week off, both a mental reset and a physical reset here. MJ Walker was kind of carried off the field, or excuse me, the court at the end of the Gardner-Webb game, and his facial expressions also didn't look like that of a leader. So hoping that the week off and some practice and everything that's come out of Ham this week as well has been more positive, and hopefully the team's resetting. But this is a 50-50 game. This is close, and I think the spread of the game set by Vegas right now kind of is indicative to that this is a toss-up game.
Yeah, and I think you're right that this game is basically Florida State playing Florida State to a certain extent. I'll almost say that Clemson, other than not having the height, as you mentioned, is basically playing the way that Florida State hoped to be playing at this point in the season, to have an 11-man rotation and to have many of those guys really be in tune defensively. Whereas Florida State has a 9-man rotation, and I would say that less than 6 of them are actually in tune defensively at this point. So I think Clemson is definitely looking like a really strong team. And, as a caveat to their only loss to Virginia Tech, in that game, Virginia Tech shot twice as many free throws as Clemson. So it kind of one of those fluky ACC games. I do think that Clemson is a far better team than Virginia Tech, despite the fact that one is ranked and the other is not. I think that Clemson is a team that, to this point has looked like they could actually contend for the ACC title. And they've got everything you look for in a team, and I'll say it again, I think we'll keep saying it. They've got basically a Florida State build to their roster where they've got these get old, stay old guys, and they've got some young talent. They've got 2 top 100 recruits on this roster from the previous recruiting class. PJ Hall is a elite offensive. I won't call him a big, but he's got high 6'8", elite offensive finesse product. And then they've got a kid coming out of Canada and a couple other places, Oliver Prosper. He has a hyphenated name, but I didn't say it. But he's an elite defensive prospect. So they've got these guys coming in that were 4-star top 100 recruits. They've got experience, and they're playing at a high level right now. Now, the one thing to talk about is that while they are one of the best, if not the best defensive team in the country. If you look at them metrically, they've got some incredible statistics. They are really, really struggling offensively. And they mirror Florida State in the way that they play offensively, and that they are really only successful when they can get into transition. However, they don't have the talent outside of Amir Sims and Alamir Dawes, who are their two, leaders and their older guys on their roster. They don't really have the talent to create quite as well as Florida State does. And that's to say that we all know Florida State has not been creating well on the offensive end. They've also only been successful in transition. However, Florida State is 28th in offensive efficiency in the country, even with all of that being the case. Clemson ranks nowhere near there, and they're a bottom tier offensive team at this point. It kind of seems like there's a give and take here. What's going to break and who's going to win out? How do you see this kind of playing out for Florida State, and what do they need to do in order to be successful in this game?
So, this is a game with a week off that you hope that there's some offensive progress that we haven't seen, and we work on the defensive rotations better than they've done to this point. Hopefully some practices and just some fluidity shows this week. What we need to happen, and you and I have discussed this a lot. Last year, Trent Forrest didn't need to be a scoring point guard, but he did score when he needed to because we needed him to. And how did he do that? He didn't shoot. He was probably the worst shooter on the team last year. In fact, he probably could have shot better with his opposite hand than he did with his predominant hand. But Scotty Barnes needs to take this offense and make it his own right now. We have players that are playing well on the perimeter. Not all of them, okay? Wyatt Wilkes is not shooting that well. Gray is not shooting the three ball. We didn't think he would, but he has shown some flashes previously in years that he can stroke it from there a little bit. Raekwon Evans threw a couple prayers up in the Gardner-Webb game that went in, but Anthony Polite and MJ Walker are tearing it up from the corner three. Polite in general is tearing it up from all over the court in three-point range. Where we've seen Scotty Barnes and also the Florida State offense be successful in years past is that we attack the hoop, the defense collapses, and then we start to hit shots on the perimeter by facilitating passes on driving kicks. I think that this team can be offensively successful if we start to do that as well. I don't think at the end of the season, Scotty Barnes is going to be shooting sub 50% from free throw. And I'm hoping that a week off in practice will get him to start shooting the ball a little bit better for us from the free throw line. And that will instill some confidence to say, hey, I can go to the basket and I should be going to the basket. And that'll open up the entire offense. This is a team that he should be able to go to the basket against because there is no real inside presence that he should be worried about. So keep attacking the basket. But I'm kind of going to flip the switch here, and I don't think Florida State wins this game. I think Clemson is playing better and at a higher level right now than we're even close to being at, and I don't think Florida State is a finished product right now. I think we're still very raw on both the offensive and defensive side. Where there is talent there, I think Sadar Calhoun and Nagam and these guys are talented players, and even Ballard defensively can be a talented player, but everyone needs more time to be more cohesive as a unit. And I think that Clemson already is a more cohesive unit right now, and that's why I'm going to have Clemson winning this game.
Yeah. So one thing I'll say is important before we get to our predictions is Clemson's not a team that is very good at defending a big man in the post. They basically say we'll let the big man get whatever they want because we're going to defend everything else so well. We saw this against Purdue where their 7'4" big just feasted on Clemson and they didn't really care. What Clemson is incredibly good at is defending the three-point line. I think they've allowed something like less than 50 or right at 50 three-point attempts this year in all their games so far, total. And so they are very good at shutting that down. And so while I don't necessarily think that this is the game where we're going to see the drive and kick to the three-point line come to fruition and really be the game changer in winning us a game, I see that more against a team like a Duke. In this game, it's still incredibly important because it is going to be the way that you're going to need to feed Balsa, and hopefully Nagam can get in there as well. But if we try to do what we did in a couple games this year, where we just stand on the perimeter, pass it around, boop, 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 and then back to the top of the key, and Scotty throws it in to Balsa, who's trying to back someone down, we're not going to beat this team. They're far too athletic. Amir Sims will come under Balsa and pick that ball off. Nick Honor is a transfer for them that is incredibly good in passing lanes. It's not going to work. It's going to have to be that Scotty and Evans are driving the hoop and then kicking it to these bigs as they come open. We saw this happen against Georgia Tech for a stretch. We saw it against Florida for a stretch, that when our bigger point guards can get into the lane and then kick, it's Balsa most of the time standing there with no one around him. Mm-hmm. And that's what's going to happen, because they will not be doubling Balsa in this game. And Clemson is likely, because they play switch, you're going to see a lot of Alamir Dawes and Nick Honor playing on Scotty Barnes. If Scotty is not relentless in going to the hoop, it is going to be a very long night, because they are going to let us sit out on that three-point line and dink and dump it around and take bad looks all day, because that's what they thrive on. We need to drive. And if MJ is seeing that Scotty isn't driving, he needs to get ISO at the top and drive himself, because what we saw against Virginia Tech is that this team is prone to fouling. And if we got to get someone on the line, let's make it MJ Walker, who we know will knock his free throws down. That's not to say that Scotty shouldn't drive, but it's time for us to see MJ. If Scotty's not doing his job, first of all, walk over to him, hit him in the back of the head and say, go to the hoop, go to the damn hoop and get us some shot creation, or get the ball yourself, ISO yourself, and start going to the hoop. And if we don't see either of those two things happen, which we didn't see against UCF, we didn't see against Gardner-Webb, and we didn't really even see against Florida or Indiana, it just happened to work out in our favor because we were better in transition, this is not going to be a close game. I get very nervous when we say those two things have to happen, because we haven't seen them happen for a full game yet.
No, we haven't. And with Clemson allowing only 27% three-point percentage to this point, like, that's not how the offense should flow. This is a Clemson team that does not rebound well. Their leading rebounder is a guard, averaging just under 5 rebounds per game. On the season, they've allowed more offensive rebounds than they've been able to obtain themselves, and only have 6 more defensive rebounds at 7 more offensive rebounds in general at 168 compared to 161 given up defensively. That this is a team that, like you're saying, if the guards could get in and just take a shot, we should have the bodies underneath to put the ball back in the basket. It's something that needs to happen. And if we want to be successful this year, not just in this game, we need to see progress here attacking the hoop. If we don't attack the hoop, this is going to be a very pedestrian team throughout the rest of the season. And I don't think that'll be the case. I think Ham's going to start to make some adjustments here offensively and say, hey guys, can we do something? Wake up. And it's funny because, like, the games that MJ has driven to the basket are the games that, like, he puts up 17 points and, like, we're smoothly winning those games towards the end, albeit in the middle of those games it gets a little funky and we're on the verge of, you know, potentially flipping the script and losing those games. But when he takes over, because he can hit free throws so well, we come away with double-digit wins. So that's where we can exploit them. This isn't a team that is going to be destroying us on the boards, and you need to take advantage of that, because we do have the size underneath to get the rebounds if the bigs actually play big.
Yeah, and the point about the boards is interesting, because we basically mirrored this exact same thing when we talked about UCF prior to that game. We said they don't have guys who have more than five rebounds a game. You know, they're not a good rebounding team, and UCF destroyed us on the board. Destroyed us. And this is not a fun thing to say, but Clemson is basically UCF, but better in every way. This is, you know, like, UCF is a really good defensive team. I think we saw that against Houston. We've seen that in a few different regards. Clemson's an even better defensive team than UCF. And if we fall prey to what we fell into in that game, which, let's just get it off the top, is a lack of energy. If there's a lack of energy, call it a day. because this team is not going to win unless they go in treating this like a end-all be-all game, which in my opinion, it really is one of the more important games on the schedule because it really is going to be quite the litmus test. I'd rather win this game than win Duke because I think it changes a lot of things for the perception of this game. That being said, I also think if Florida State beats Clemson, we're going to beat Duke. So I think that this team needs to go in realizing the magnitude of this game, realizing that they're basically facing the exact type of roster that gave them fits and made them look inefficient. And if they go in and don't play with intensity and effort, and when I say intensity and effort, I'm talking about second half against UF intensity and effort, where they're basically saying, oh, you thought you were going to compete with us. Well, that's not going to happen today. And we are just flying around the court, looking to hammer dunks down on people's faces. It's going to be an ugly effort on our part. And this is really dangerous for me because I feel like if we do play like we did against UCF and we get beat by double digits, this team could be demoralized to the point of it affecting the long-term product of the team.
If you had to pick one guy that's going to carry us in this game, who do you think it's going to be?
So here's the thing. If I had to pick who do I think is going to carry us, I think it's going to be Raekwon Gray. But I don't think that's a good thing. I think if I had to pick one guy, if it was my choice, it'd be Scotty Barnes. And that's probably every single game of the year. We need Scotty to carry us in this game and go to the hoop. But what we've seen to this point is the only guy who willingly goes to the hoop with fury and the intention of getting a bucket no matter what happens, or if he gets fouled, that's fine, is Raekwon Gray. And I think if he stays out of foul trouble, we've seen time and time again, he's going to be the only guy who's willing to push the effort on the offensive end when things are getting stagnant. And so, unfortunately, I think it's going to be Raekwon Gray. And I think he's going to be the guy who goes to the hoop. I don't think he scores, 18 points or anything along those lines. But I do think he's going to be the guy who carries us on both ends. I think defensively, he's probably the guy that we need to make sure is at least getting looks on Sims because I love Malik, but I think that in this one case, he is a better defender in terms of getting into passing lanes and moving around the court. And while Osborne is certainly, mobile enough to do it, I think that Gray is a bit more of a tough matchup for a guy like Sims because of his size and his width. And so I think he carries us on both ends. But when we talk defensively, it's going to be a really interesting game because Ham has said these things about, switching our 1 through 5 hasn't been working to this point. And so does he make the change to where we basically switch 1 through 4 and 5 is kind of sitting there and we're hedging off of that? I don't know if that happens in this game. I think we are very clear that Balsa can't be following Amir Sims out to the 3-point line and wildly throwing his wavy arm man and a collar dealership body up at a guy and sometimes just missiling himself into him because Amir Sims shoots 45% from 3. He's basically been efficient like Anthony Polite has to this point in the season. We cannot have Balsa on him at the perimeter, and it makes me nervous to see how we're going to be able to effectively switch for the first time. And for that reason, I'd almost rather, minimize. It's so tough. This is a question for you. What do you do? Because how do you minimize the defensive time that Balsa gets, but maximize the time he gets on the offensive end?
I mean, one thing we haven't thrown any zone out there this year, but I do think that you need to switch less because it's not really working and the team hasn't looked cohesive on that side of the ball. Even Scotty on some of the switches is getting beat off the dribble when they're coming off the screens. And it's been pretty effective against us every single game. Every team knows exactly how we play a defense. We switch everything and they're taking advantage of that. As a unit, we haven't looked that good. I mean, this year we haven't had like the shot blocker that we normally have, even though we have 3 7-footers on the team. No one's really blocking shots, which is a little interesting to me because normally that's like a staple of a Ham defense is a big 7-footer shot blocker that doesn't need to do a ton offensively. And this year, offensively, the bigs have been better than they have been in the past, but defensively much more poor. I mean, I think the guy that's going to carry us is Polite. Outside of Gray, I think he's been the other guy that's willing to attack the basket. He had a big dunk in the Gardner-Webb game. He's been the one that if he can pump fake, he gets through the lane because you really have to respect him from three. And he's, excuse me, he's also like quietly carried the team. He's averaging 11 and almost 6 rebounds. So I don't know what we do. This is a game that is a confusing game to me because it could really go. I think we could win like pretty nicely if our defense steps up, because I don't think offensively they're going to do a ton that's really going to confuse us other than getting to the basket and drawing fouls on us. But this is a game, like, if we don't start to do more offensively, we could lose by double digits easy.
Yeah, easily. And you're right. There's nothing that's going to confuse us, but it's basically looking at a mirror image of ourselves with some parts that are better than ourselves, I guess, is my main point. And I was up there at Little John when, Alamir Dawes hit that game-winning layup as time expired to beat Florida State by 1 last year. That kid who runs the point for them and is experienced is fast. He is faster than anyone else we've seen so far this year. And he gave Trent Forrest fits because of his speed, and we weren't able to switch effectively against him last year. That makes me real nervous against Scotty Barnes. Yeah, I mean, it makes me really nervous because Scotty is incredibly good, but if Trent isn't quick enough to guard this guy, is Scotty going to be truly quick enough? Our switches have to be incredibly effective if you're going to switch, or we've got to run man help defense and not be switching as much as we are, or go into some sort of zone. I don't know. There's a lot of things about this game I just don't like.
I'd love to see some man help defense because I think you could throw a guy on Polite on him and maybe lock him down a little bit better than what we've seen. We really only have 3 guys on the team that I personally would consider fast. Polite's got some wheels. MJ Walker's got some wheels, and Sadar Calhoun is the fastest guy in the team that has no idea where to go.
Yeah,
so you can't play it.
Sadar would be running past Dawes into the locker room.
Yeah, straight in, Forrest Gump style, straight home.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Quick point guards and quick guards in general have given us issues. I love that we are big guard you. We like to have size. Eventually, I'd like to see somebody that's got a little lightning in his step. Someone that's going to get around the court a little bit faster. I mean, we can't, discredit Scotty for what he does defensively because he is so long and big. Like, he's got quick hands and he gets steals and he's able to, for the most part, stay in front of smaller guards because they literally just can't get around him. But at the same time, as soon as they do, like, they beat him off the dribble. He gets beat off the dribble. And I mean, he's like 18 years old. So I can't say like, hey, be better, like be the best, be your full self now. I can't. And I think that's what I wanted to expect of him coming into the season and having these lofty expectations for him because he is the best and the most highly touted recruit that Ham has ever brought in. His defense and intensity is what he was known for and getting to the basket and putting people on posters. But, I think I need to temper my expectations for him a little bit. Coming into the season, like, the blinders were on. I was so excited to see what this kid could do. And I still think he is one of the top freshmen and one of the top players in the country. Maybe this is a game that he kind of says like, okay, I'm ready to go. Like, ACC play is here. I'm ready to go. I need to step up my game. And I think that guys like Gray and Balsa and Walker all need to do that too. This is not their first rodeo here. Saddle up, let's go. Let's play some defense. Let's play some handball. This is what, like, you guys have been doing for multiple years now. This is what Florida State is built off of. Let's have some really good upperclassmen that have been through the trials and tribulations of the ACC and bring in a couple freshmen that are so excited and so energized that they don't even care it's ACC play. They just want to run. And I think if we do that against Clemson, this could be a simple win for us. If the team starts playing like the team should be playing, it should be a dub. But I'm not going to sit here and say like I'm fully prepared for them to show me a full game because they haven't been close yet. They haven't been even close.
But it's frustrating because it seems so simple because it all hedges on one thing, and it's if Scotty goes to the hoop, and we could be wrong about this. We could see Scotty go to the hoop and be an absolute nightmare, and they hack him every time, and he misses every free throw shot. I'm not saying that we're 100% right, but it feels to me like in every game we've seen so far this year, when Scotty turns the switch on and decides for 5 minutes that he is going to be the dude, no one has been able to stop it. It doesn't matter if it was Scotty Lewis guarding him. It didn't matter if it was, any of the guys on Indiana guarding him, who they definitely have a great defensive roster as well. It didn't matter if it was anyone from Georgia Tech who was all below 5'2". It didn't matter. When he turns it on, he gets himself in a place that is good for the team. And it seems so simple to me that, CY or one of these guys pull him aside and say, if you don't go to the hoop, we're going to lose this game. You've got to realize that you need to be our guy. That's why we started you at point guard when we've never done that with a freshman before. That's why we put you in this position. It's because we believe in you. Everybody's seen it. You need to start thinking like the most important player on this team. And if he does that, I don't think Clemson can guard it. I said it before when I was so much more positive that we were going to go to the Final Four and everything. If he does that, we could be the second best team in the country. Will he do it tonight? And if we don't see it, I start to get really nervous about the long-term prospects. And it feeds back to this thing of, this is a big game, because if they do come out and we do see Scotty driving the hoop and we do see, really locking down on our switches, and maybe by not switching 1 through 5 and hedging, we start to see more efficiency on the defensive end, and we come out and win this game by, 6 to 10 points or, even double digits. We both know that our entire expectations are going to flip right back to that.
Oh, through the roof. Absolutely through the roof.
And it's funny because really, I think it's a fortunate thing we've gotten to this point as a fan base that it's like the sky is falling if we lose a single game. I read a stat that, Florida State has been ranked, I think, like the majority of its past 72 games, which is just wild to think about. But we are now in such a lofty place as a fan base that we lose a game to a team like a UCF and we're ready to think the season's over. And then we watch UCF as the season goes on and we're like, oh, that's actually a pretty damn good team. There's no, if we were to play UCF now and lose to them after what we've seen them do since, we'd probably say like, oh, all right, I that's, not a good performance on our part. We should have won, but we lost. We lost that game, and we're all like, I don't even know if Florida State's going to make the tournament this year. And
this team stinks.
It's like, we can't do that. And that being said, I'm a hypocrite because I'm saying right now, if we go out and beat Clemson handily, I'm all the way back in on believing it. And I guess my main point is that I feel it's that simple, that if we can get Scotty to take over and we can get MJ to feel comfortable in the second role. Because I think that's the thing. He doesn't feel comfortable as the guy. He wants to be the guy who can control from the wing. If Scotty can go to the hoop, I think that this changes everything for this season. And if we win this, look out, Duke. Because I don't think you can compete with a confident Florida State team.
No. And I think, we're so invested into this, and we were so excited coming into the season and still excited now, is because this is a year that, the powerhouses of the ACC, whether you want to include us in there or not, I think we should be. But Louisville is going to have a down year due to guys being injured. Obviously, they're still a good team, but not what they could be. UNC is built off of centers and doesn't have a ton of scoring guards. Duke is out without their best player for the time being, out indefinitely. So, this is a year. And Virginia is looking pedestrian. And so we sit here and look at the schedule and look at the teams around us, and I'm like, well, damn, man, we should really be taking the crown here. And that's why it's so frustrating to see us not performing well in another year where we can take an ACC title. We need to start putting it together and start playing Florida State basketball. Because if Scotty does take over and MJ falls back into that 2 role where he's been successful for, 3 years at this point, look out. This is another great Florida State team. But someone needs to step up. I do think it'll be Scotty. We've seen him do it before. It's not like he can't do it. It's just will he do it? Will and when? I don't know what the tipping point is. I don't know what the point is in these games that he has turned the light switch on. He's like, oh shit, like I forgot we need to win these games. Like I'm not just out here playing like, oh my God, we got to win. So like if we could do that at the start of the game, that would be cool. I don't know if someone needs to like slap him across the face like the guys in dodgeball where the samurais were slapping themselves to get ready. Hey, wake up. Get this guy a Bang energy or something. Like he needs to get going. I don't know what it is, man. If he wakes up though, this is I'm all the way back in. This is an elite team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens tonight. And I don't think with Scotty that it's a thing of him not wanting to win or not being competitive. I think that it's almost the opposite, that this guy is such a Florida State prototype and such a perfect fit for this system that he has this mentality that it's going to happen as it happens. It doesn't have to be me. It can be someone else. And I think he needs to realize, like Trent did, Trent was all about everybody else, but he knew that the entire team ran through him.
Absolutely. Whenever we needed a bucket, when Trent was here, he would go get the bucket. Or right. he would make the play, right? He would go to the basket. You never saw him like settle for a three. And well, because he can't shoot them. But you never
Scotty.
Yeah. They both shown like a little bit like, oh, it could go in. If I do throw it up there, it could go in. But Trent would go to the basket every time, and then he would hit someone in the corner or get fouled, or like it was like a three options. He was either going to get fouled, it was either going in, or he's hitting someone for a corner three. And Scotty can emulate that and do it better than Trent did, and that's the thing. He can be better.
So I think you missed one though. I think there was a fourth, and it was put a shot up and get his own rebound and put it back in. Yeah. He did that better than any guard I've ever seen. And you've got to be wild if you don't think that Scotty could and should be better at that to get his own rebound. He's got 4 inches on Trent Forrest and is way more athletic. That's what he needs to realize is like, you got to be putting these shots up and then getting angry and start boxing out as soon as it leaves your hand to try to put it back in. Yeah. And if he can do all those things, and if we can see even what we saw a flash of in the Gardner-Webb game where he stole 2 straight inbound passes and controlled the game. And that's why we won, because Scotty was like, all right, time to take
play.
over.
Yeah,
all right, we win it by double digits now. If he can do it, give me even – I'll take baby steps. Give me a 10-minute stretch, maybe 2 5-minute stretches. If we can get 10 full minutes of that, we can win this game. Maybe it's a tipping point and we get a full game of Scotty, and then I'd be real nervous if I was Clemson. But this is a good time to transition. But let's get to predictions. You already tipped yours. Mm-hmm. I'll go with mine first. I don't think it happens tonight. I don't think that Scotty takes over. I don't know when it will happen, but I think it will. I just don't see it being tonight. I did not see the reaction from these guys against Gardner-Webb that I was really hoping that losing a game meant everything to them in the wrong way. That they were never going to let that happen again, and that they were playing with fury afterwards. And that makes me nervous, and I have a feeling that we're going to see them come out and not have the level of energy that we need them to. I don't think that they're going to be lethargic like they were against UCF. I think we'll see a better effort than we did see against Gardner-Webb, but this is a far better team than either of those teams, and I just don't see Florida State being able to get it done if you don't have shot creation from Scotty and from MJ, and I don't see either of them doing that tonight. And for that reason, I'm going to take a loss in this game. We've got an over-under of 131.5 at this point. I'll go over that. I do think that the game goes over. And we've got a spread of 1.5 points Clemson. I'll also take Clemson to cover that. What I'm going to say is a 66-61 game in favor of Clemson.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little more I guess, aggressive, saying that Clemson's going to win, and I'm going to go with more points as well. I think our defense has been lackluster. We've been able to score some points at the end of games, but we haven't been able to really close one out well. And I think Clemson, with the way that they have held opponents shooting the three ball and our tendency to kind of shoot the three ball right now. I have Clemson covering, and I have us. I'm going to take the over in the points as well. I'm going 76-68. Clemson, again, this could easily be a Florida State win. I think this could very much be a Florida State win if we see a team takeover and maybe a clearing of the heads. I know that Ham came out this week and said what happened in the UF game to Keontae Johnson, and it obviously some better news. It looks like Keontae Johnson is joining the UF team and is going to be coaching the team this year as a player coach and being with the staff and the team, and that's great for him. And hopefully that's able to kind of clear the heads of the Florida State players, because Ham came out and said that, some of the guys were not in the best headspace after that happened. And we saw what happened in the 2 games after, a little lackluster performances, maybe some time off and some practice will get them back in the spirit of things, and also like the holiday spirit as their musical performance or their annual musical performance came out this year. And we saw MJ with the solo, so maybe that's the wake-up call that he needed. He just needed that solo performance on the microphone to remember to, hey, I'm good at singing and I'm good at basketball. So we could see it, but I'm going to be on the pessimistic side this time as well, and I'm going with Clemson, man.
All right. Well, I before we sign off here, I do want to admit that I'm clearly terrible at math. I said that I was going over the total, yet when I added up my 2 figures there, it was under by about 4 points. So I'm going to take the under and a Clemson cover in this game. But I think we're on a similar wavelength here. Let's hope that we are as wildly wrong about this game as we both were about UCF, and that by the next time we come on this podcast before the Duke game, we are predicting Florida State to maybe give Gonzaga some trouble in the final again, like wildly, overly optimistic fans. I'd love that to be the case. I don't see it tonight, but here's the hoping that we are both wrong, and go Noles.
Go Noles.